Most Calvinists admit that its inception started with the French theologian John Calvin in the 1500s. There's a lot of history about Calvin, much of which should be an embarrassment within the Calvinistic Church. However, I will leave it for perhaps another time, as the focal point of this work is not about the man himself, but what is believed in, specifically in the Reformed, Presbyterian, and many Baptist churches, and the impact it is making on well-meaning Christians today. The acronym TULIP, which Calvinists derive total depravity, unconditional election, limited atonement, irresistible grace, and perseverance of the saints, was coined officially in Lorraine Bottner's book, The Reformed Doctrine of Predestination, which was written in 1913. Since Calvinists usually appealed to the Westminster Confession of Faith, I will quote from there as much as possible when introducing the teachings of each letter in the acronym TULIP. I'd like to start off with the T in TULIP, which is the acronym which stands for total depravity, or what Calvinists would consider total inability. This is a crucial point where all the other Calvinistic doctrines, or all the letters in the acronym TULIP, stand or fall. The Westminster Confession of Faith reads like this: Our first parents, being seduced by the subtlety and temptations of Satan, sinned in eating the forbidden fruit. This their sin God was pleased, according to his wise and holy counsel, to permit, having purpose to order it to his own glory. By this sin they, which is Adam and Eve, fell from their original righteousness and communion with God, and so became dead in sin and wholly defiled in all the parts and faculties of soul and body. They, being the root of all mankind, the guilt of this sin was imputed, and the same death in sin and corrupted nature conveyed to all their posterity descending from them by ordinary generation. From this original corruption, whereby we are utterly indisposed, disabled, and made opposite to all good, and wholly inclined to all evil, do proceed all actual transgressions. This corruption of nature during this life does remain in those that are regenerated. And although it be through Christ pardoned and mortified, yet both itself and all the motions thereof are truly and properly sin. Every sin, both original and actual, being a transgression of the righteous law of God, and contrary thereunto, does in its own nature bring guilt upon the sinner, whereby he is bound over to the wrath of God and curse of the law, and so made subject to death, with all miseries, spiritual, temporal, and eternal. The theology on which Calvinism stands really leans heavily on this doctrine of total inability. According to their belief, we as humans, born under the umbrella of virginal sin, due to our now pitiful state, who are now opposed to all good, wholly inclined to all evil, have no ability to respond to God. Therefore, since we cannot reach out to God for mercy, and we will not reach out to him, as it is impossible, God is the one who must choose us. He does this based on nothing we can do or have done, good or bad, but solely on the confines of his sovereign choice. Since no one chooses God, and we are all, quote, God haters, we are all deserving of the eternal wrath of God and of the eternal punishment in hell, which we all, as reprobates, long to be. It is not therefore a wonder that God only chooses some, but that God exercises his sovereign grace to anyone in the first place. In a nutshell, we are all dead, unresponsive corpses when it comes to seeking after God. Unless God grants us the ability to humble ourselves and repent, we are utterly hopeless and ordained for eternal damnation. In part 1 of this video, Total Inability, I attempt to cover not only what the top Calvinist teachers are proclaiming, but the exhaustive amount of, quote, proof text used to defend their claims. This pattern will follow for the remaining parts.